I realized something was wrong the moment I felt calm in a place where I was supposed to feel angry. Not relieved, not healed, just strangely empty. That's when I understood I hadn't actually let go of the past. I had been carrying it differently. Before we begin, please support MindShift Stories by subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a comment. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories with the world. Most of my days looked normal from the outside. I worked a steady job, woke up early, drank my coffee too fast, checked emails before I was fully awake. I nodded at coworkers in the hallway and answered, "All good," whenever someone asked how I was doing. But inside, my mind lived somewhere else. It lived in old conversations, things I should have said, things I wish I hadn't. I replayed moments like they were unfinished business. A breakup from years ago, a friendship that ended without explanation, a decision I made too quickly that changed the direction of my life in ways I didn't fully understand until much later. I told myself this was normal. Everyone carries memories. Everyone has regrets. I assumed thinking about the past meant I was reflective, thoughtful, maybe even emotionally mature. But there was a quiet tension I couldn't name. It showed up in small ways. I hesitated before making decisions. I overanalyzed people's reactions. When something went wrong, my first instinct was to look backward, searching for a pattern, a reason, a familiar pain. I remember thinking, if I could just understand the past better, I'd finally move on. That belief felt logical, reasonable, safe, until something small disrupted it. There was a guy at work, Evan. Quiet, polite, forgettable in the way that makes you trust someone without realizing it. We weren't close, just casual conversations by the coffee machine, occasional teamwork on projects. One afternoon, during a meeting, someone made a joke at his expense. Nothing cruel, just one of those jokes people laugh at without thinking. Everyone smiled. Evan smiled too. But something about it felt off. It wasn't the joke. It was the timing of his smile. It came a second too late, like his face was catching up to what the room expected from him. I noticed it, then forgot about it. A few days later, I ran into him in the parking lot. We stood there longer than usual, talking about nothing important. The weather, traffic, work deadlines. Then he said something strange. "I used to think forgetting was the same as letting go," he said, casually, like he was commenting on the weather. I laughed a little. "Is it?" He shrugged. "Depends what you're trying to protect." That was it. No explanation, no follow-up. He got in his car and drove away. The sentence stayed with me longer than it should have. Depends what you're trying to protect. I started noticing things after that. Not just about Evan, but about myself. How quickly I avoided certain topics. How defensive I became when people asked about my past. How I framed old stories in a way that always made sense, always made me look reasonable. I told myself I had processed those experiences. I had talked about them, thought about them, learned from them. But one night, while lying in bed, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't revisiting the past to understand it. I was revisiting it to control it. Every memory I replayed ended the same way, with me feeling justified, right, wronged, smarter now. The past wasn't something I was healing from, it was something I was using to explain myself. A few weeks later, Evan and I ended up staying late at work. The office was quiet, lights dimmed, that strange calm that only exists when most people are gone. We started talking, real talking, not the polite kind. He told me he'd moved cities 3 times in 5 years. Not for work, not for adventure, just movement. I thought distance would fix things, he said. Turns out, you bring yourself with you. I asked what he meant. He hesitated, then said, "There's stuff I never dealt with. I just learned how to organize it better." That word, organize, hit me harder than I expected. That night, I went home and opened an old box I hadn't touched in years. Letters, photos, random objects I couldn't throw away because they felt like proof that something mattered. I expected nostalgia, sadness, anger. What I felt instead was exhaustion. I realized I had been carrying these memories not because they hurt, but because they defined me. They gave me a story, a reason for who I was. Letting go suddenly felt terrifying. If I let go of the past, who would I be without it? That question stayed with me. Over the next few days, I paid attention to how often my mind drifted backward. I noticed how frequently I compared the present to something that no longer existed. I remembered moments where I had blamed old wounds for new fears, where I said, "This is just how I am now," instead of asking whether that was still true. The turning point came quietly. I was sitting alone at a cafe, watching people come and go, when I had a simple, unsettling thought. What if the past isn't holding on to me? What if I'm holding on to it? Not because I needed it, but because I didn't know who I'd be without it. That realization didn't feel dramatic. It felt heavy, honest. I wasn't trapped by what happened to me. I was loyal to it. Loyal to the version of myself who survived it. Loyal to the explanations I built around it. Loyal to the identity that formed because of it. Letting go wasn't about forgetting pain. It was about releasing the role it played in my decisions. The consequences weren't immediate. I didn't suddenly feel lighter or happier. What changed was subtle. I paused more before reacting. I listened instead of defending. I noticed when I was about to say, "This reminds me of," and stopped. I started making choices based on who I was becoming, not who I used to be. Some days felt uncomfortable, empty even, like standing without armor. But something else appeared in that space: curiosity. I became curious about people without comparing them to my past. Curious about myself without judging every reaction. One afternoon, I saw Evan again. He looked different, not happier, just present. "I think I'm done running," he said. I smiled. Me too. The real secret to letting go of the past isn't time. It isn't understanding. It isn't forgiveness. It's realizing that the past has the power you keep giving it. Not because you're weak, but because it once kept you safe. Letting go means trusting that you don't need that protection anymore. Now, when old memories surface, I don't fight them. I don't analyze them. I acknowledge them, then return to where I am. Because the past doesn't need to disappear for you to move forward. It just needs to stop deciding who you are. And sometimes, the hardest question isn't what happened to me, it's who am I without it?